All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have enough quorum. Our facilitator is here with us. We are ready to start. Good afternoon once again. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. Now, Minet is an insurance broking firm, and one of the products that we offer is employee assistance programs. And part of what we offer within the scope of the employee assistance programs is employee well-being. Now, it does not require too much talking about how much well-being can contribute to a person's productivity. So this afternoon, we have a very, very, very special person joining us who will be facilitating us, as you already know. But I'll speak briefly into what informs our employee assistance programs. You need to know that at Minet, we do not come up with solutions that are not well researched. We did a study, or what you would call a research, into the market, just thinking through the wholesome, approach to ensuring employee well-being. So we tailored solutions that are well thought through in terms of employee well-being, employees' well-being. So thank you so much for choosing to join us this afternoon. This is our 6th webinar. It's one of the series of the many webinars that we are going to have as part of our give back in regards to employee assistance. So I'd like to implore us to join us every single month. Every single month we have a webinar where we bring you topical issues. We discuss topical issues. We discuss matters that are extremely relevant to you. And this afternoon is equally going to be a fruitful one. Our topic today is nutrition and mental health. I think when I think about this topic, it's one of those that is extremely relevant, that cuts across all age groups, that cuts across every status, it cuts across anybody's status. So it's important for you to tap anybody that you love that has not yet joined us this afternoon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with me is a big team from Minet that is supporting in terms of this webinar. I'm going to invite one of my colleagues, Helen Mbabazi, who is our wellness coordinator. She'll speak into the bigger picture of what our wellness solution looks like before I come back and invite our facilitator for that day. Helen, if you're there, I'll ask you to take a minute or a few minutes just to speak into our employee assistance solution, and then we will get into the gist of today's webinar.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. I'm glad to be with you, Dr. Paul Kasenene, for this webinar. I'd like to, first of all, thank you so much, our client, our people, our family members for joining this webinar. We don't take it for granted that you give us your time every month to join our webinars. And I would like to thank you so much for all the feedback that you keep giving us to keep improving every other day. Please do keep it coming. And most importantly, is to really tell you that we have a very, very, very good program for employee assistance program. As you all know, wellness, employee wellness is quite a big thing in today's world. Everybody needs to be well, everybody needs to be balanced. And part of what we do is to bring you topical discussions. Dr. Kasenene is here to share something very, very important for us. We eat every day. We receive counseling sessions from people concerned about their weight, concerned about not thinking right, concerned about how do I improve my health. And we bring him to tell us there are things that we can use within our environment. Part of them is food. You eat food every day. How can you use food to help you improve your wellness? That's why Dr. Kasenene is here. Now, I would like to ask you to feel free to write down every question. I realize some of you have advanced questions even before Dr. Kasenene presents. We were happy about that. So Dr. Kasenene expects a lot of questions. People are so excited to receive you today. I can't explain how much. but they're excited to hear from you because they believe what you're bringing is life to them. And we thank you for the big work that you're doing out there in the world. People appreciate, people have been revived, people have been reformed, people have improved their health life, and that's why you have many more coming this morning. So we hope to hear more of that for everybody. I would like to open this session for today and enjoy everybody. All the best.
All right. Thank you very much, Helen, for that brief intro. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now getting into the major part of our webinar this afternoon. Our facilitator today does not need too much introduction. Dr. Kasenene, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Now, Dr. Kasenene, as we all know, probably some of us have followed him on social media and the different places. He is a medical doctor, but not just a medical doctor, but a specialized practitioner in nutrition. One of the things that I celebrate especially about Dr. Kasenene is his focus on lifestyle medicine, functionality and lifestyle medicine. I keep telling my workmates here that I am one of Dr. Kasenene's products or people that he has made in terms of well-being and health. He's a wellness expert. He's not just an expert through training, but he's equally passionate. I hope some of us have interacted with him. You know, I have seen testimonials of people that have almost cut, you know, a quarter of their weight in a matter of, you know, months just by interacting with him. So he's passionate, like I was telling you, in helping people achieve optimal health, well-being, and he does it through natural dietary and lifestyle methods. I think most of us, when we think about wellness, when we think about health, we are thinking medication, we are thinking procedures. If I have belly fat, maybe the solution is to, you know, cut me and what have you. No. His advice or his approach is natural. It's usually lifestyle or dietary related. He has a strong belief that superior nutrition can support your body to be well and heal itself. I mean, who does not want a body that will heal itself? Who wants to depend on medicine? Probably none of us. So Dr. Kasenene also has over 10 years experience. So he's the thing I celebrated the most about what he does is that it is well researched. Everything he will tell you is well researched. So Dr. Kasenene has got, you know, experience both practically, but also in terms of education. So he does interrogate. Everything that he does is interrogated. Doctor, you will allow me speaking to your book. You know, Dr. Kasenene is not just a wellness expert or one of those people that has is a seasoned nutrition expert, but he's also an author. Did you know that Doctor wrote a book, Eat Your Way to Wellness? So I know that even as he speaks to us, he will probably speak into that book. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, don't help me welcome Dr. Kasenene to speak to us. Doctor, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Helen, Alan, everybody in the Minet team for having invited me to be a part of your, your series on health and wellness. I'm excited to be here, especially talk about nutrition and mental health. Like introduced, I am a medical doctor by training, and my area of interest is actually nutrition, lifestyle, and functional medicine. And I always like to give a brief introduction about how I ended up in this space and why it's important. But before I do that, I'm going to share my screen. I would like to share my screen. So I'd like us to have an interactive engagement today. So I'm going to ask that we, get out our phones or our laptops and um, just go to this website, menti.com. Everything is appearing on your screen. I hope you can see it. It's just going to help us to answer a few questions, engage with each other. Um, so basically what you do, like, as you see, is you just go to menti.com and enter that code 4531742. Or you can just scan the QR code and you should be able to get in. Yeah, I'll just test quickly to see if it's working here. Yeah, we're in. Okay. So as we get in, we're going to talk about food and mental health. I really just want to, ask a question as I give you my introduction. So just to make sure that it's all working, there'll be a question there. How are you feeling today? Um, so just to make sure that we are all able to participate in this quiz. So basically, as you answer that question, my journey began in 2007, 2008 as a medical doctor already working, and I began to experience um, subtle changes in my health. I gained some weight, my blood pressure started to go up, and because of that, I ended up being in front of a doctor who I worked with called Dr. Wawire. They were a very good physician. And what happened was very transformative for me because he actually prescribed for me cholesterol lowering drugs and told me that if I didn't change my lifestyle, I would end up on blood pressure medication. And being 28, being a doctor, I actually was very, intrigued about the fact that, even doctors like us can end up on medication. But I didn't want to take medication, and it dawned on me that many people who come to doctors don't want to take medication. They want to be well. And so I went on a journey to understand what can you do to be well. And my journey led me to a doctor in New Jersey called Joel Furman, who wrote a book called Eat to Live. And many people think that my message is radical, but um, I think Joel Furman's message was actually quite radical. So the first thing he asked me to do was he asked me not to eat cooked food for 7 days, and that really changed my life in many ways because first I thought I was going to die, which I did not. But secondly, after doing it, I realized how much better I felt. I followed his diet plan for a year, and within 1 year, I had lost 15 kilos, and I wasn't trying to lose weight. My blood pressure came back to normal, my cholesterol came back to normal. My allergies disappeared because I had very bad allergies. And the most fascinating thing for me was that my asthma got better. So I realized this is what patients want, and people come to doctors for help. And so we as doctors need to be championing this journey towards being healthy and not necessarily treating people when they're sick. So I'm going to talk about health, mental health, and nutrition. I hope you're all in. Um, Today, we're going to ask, does what we eat play a role in mental health? Are our food choices affecting and increasing our rates of mental health problems? And what exactly is mental health? So I hope you guys are in. I have 20 people who have answered, who have taken part in the first question of the day. I hope we could get more people in. So just join at the top. You just go to menti.com and you use that code 4531742. Okay. So far we have 43 people, 45 who have answered. 18 are saying they're feeling just fine, 14 are good, 7 are energized, but we have a few people feeling tired and sad. So I'm going to ask that we, answer a few questions just so that we can actually, make a bit more sense about this presentation that we are going to have today. So when you think of mental health, what comes to mind? Just write down any 3 things, that come to your mind when you think of mental health, so that I can actually have an idea about, how we should, drive this presentation. Okay, peace, happy. Okay, so in front of you, if you're on the webinar, you should be able to see the answers trickling in. We see depression, we see stress, we see happiness, we see peace, we see confusion. Um, okay, we have 34 people who have given us their answers. Okay, that's interesting. So thank you very much for sharing. Please continue to send in the answers. So what is standing out strongly is depression, stress, peace, happiness, confusion, sanity. Okay. So thank you so much. We've had 152 answers so far. I'm just going to proceed. There are a few questions I'd like us to just answer about our mental health, and then we'll just dive into, nutrition and mental health. Okay. As we get started, I just wanted to just make this clear that anybody who has a brain, who experiences emotions, who interacts with the environment and other people can struggle with mental health issues. Now, I'm not going to make this presentation technical, but many times when we talk about mental health, people always think of the major psychiatric things like schizophrenia. These are people who have altered mental states with hallucinations. We think about people who had major depression, feeling suicidal. But I would like to also point out that mental health can include things that go beyond the major psychiatric issues. And everybody needs to be aware of this because this is all around us. Things like anxiety, people feeling more anxious than normal, people who have panic attacks, people who are struggling with attention. These are also things that can be considered mental health issues. But I would like to also point out that there are things we experience every day that can also be considered mental health issues, such as feeling low, feeling tired all the time, having problems with sleep, failing to fall asleep or failing to stay asleep, feeling lonely, even in a highly connected social media world, being restless, and even feeling angry. So these are actually things, especially if you feel that they're beyond what you feel is normal, these can also actually qualify as mental health issues. So if you're on this call, I'd like us to broaden our thought around mental health to just something that is beyond, having major depression or having a bipolar disorder that is psychiatric, to simple things like, I'm feeling low today, I don't sleep well, I'm feeling tired all the time. So let's take a moment to answer a few more questions about our mental health, and then we'll dive into the presentation. Again, the instructions are on the screen in case you just signed in. You can go to menti.com. You just go to menti.com and enter the 4531742, or you can just scan the barcode at the bottom left corner of your screen. So, rate your mental health on a scale of 1 to 10. Just for the people who are in this call, I just wanted to know how do you rate your mental health? 10 being excellent and 1 being poor. Okay, interesting. So most of us are somewhere in the middle. Okay, so today's discussion is really going to be about how can we enhance our mental health. And remember, I just say that if you have a brain, you can actually experience mental health challenges. And many of us are experiencing them in a very subtle way that may make us feel like we probably are not necessarily struggling with mental health. But it's important for us to understand the link between what we eat and our mental health. Okay, so we will share this presentation with you through Minet, and we will be able to see, but I'm glad to see the responses. About most people are about 8 out of 10. This is followed by 5 out of 10, then 7 out of 10. So most of us, our mental health is in the middle, although we do have 2 people who feel like their mental health is excellent, and 5 people who are sort of struggling with mental health. Another question, have you ever struggled silently with a mental health problem? Okay, so most of us, 22, okay. More than half have actually struggled with a mental health problem. So I'm glad that this is something that has come up because it actually shows that, mental health is actually something that is quite, predominant out of, 60 people, two-thirds of people have actually, struggled silently with a mental health problem. So I hope that by the end of this session, we'll actually learn about a few things we can actually do to, um, improve our mental health. And if for any reason you're not up to, your screen isn't just showing what you're seeing right now, you can just refresh your browser on your phone and it will take you to the current slide. Okay, so about two-thirds of the people have actually struggled silently with a mental health problem. You'll still be able to answer these hopefully, but I'd like us to proceed to the next question. Do you experience low mood? Um, okay. So most people actually experience low mood occasionally. Many people experience it frequently, and even some experience it very frequently. So I guess the people who are on this call actually will benefit from what we are going to discuss, and it will also give me an idea about how to, take the direction of this presentation. Um, Only 2 out of 63 said rarely. Uh, but most of us experience low mood occasionally, at least those who have participated. Okay, thanks for your responses. How is your focus and concentration? Forgive the typo. Is it great? Is it good? Is it fair? Is it below average? Okay. Like we said earlier, it's important to realize that focus and concentration is a marker of mental health. So I'm really glad to see that people are responding. We have about 65 people who have responded. Most people are saying it's good and fair. If you're saying below average, some saying great, some saying poor. Okay. Please remember all these questions are actually totally confidential. Nobody will ever know what you answered. So if you're there and you're not sure that you should answer these questions, these are totally confidential. Not even I can see what people are responding to because it's just a click on your phone. Okay, a few more questions. How is your memory? Great, good, fair, below average? Um, okay, so our memory is pretty good. Most of us are saying it's great and it's good. Okay, so that's an area where most of us are doing fairly well. Most are good, some are great, some are saying fair. And I'm sure, I hope you can all see these responses. Okay. I'm glad nobody says poor. Okay. So, how much stress do you experience in your life? Is it none, mild, moderate, severe, extreme? Okay, so most of us are experiencing moderate levels of stress, some severe, a few of us mild, and very few on the extremes of none or extremely stressful. Okay. So just have one more question. This may be, this is just something, please just write out in your screen. How do you cope with stress? You know, um, okay. So we have sleep as one of the major coping methods. We have drink, alcohol, we have social media, we have, wow, prayer. That's great to hear. Walking, um, jogging. Okay. Sex is there. Wow, that's an interesting one. But yeah, watch a movie, walking, prayer. So music, sleep, and prayer. So the things that are most bold or feature most prominently are what most people are actually, mentioning. Okay, so we have pray, sleep, music, social media, talk it through, cry and eat, yoga, beer. We have a whole range of things that all of you can see here. Okay. Isolate and pray, watch a podcast, dance, cry and eat, exercise, smoke, gaming, take alcohol, stress eat, steam and sauna, church, take coffee. Okay. So thank you for those answers. Well, I think gives an idea about how we all cope with our stress, um, crying, and okay. So I think this might be the last question before we dive. Have you ever felt your life was worth not living, or felt suicidal? Okay. Okay. So most of us say no. About a quarter of us say yes. So about 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 people have actually felt that their life was worth not living. I even felt suicidal. So thank you for those questions, for those responses. I'd like us to just dive into this presentation about mental health. What I want to start off by saying is that we are actually seeing a big rise in mental health issues. And like I mentioned earlier, these do not necessarily mean that you have a major health issue. I mean, things like stress and panicky and anxiety, especially post-COVID, are actually on the rise. So it's important for us to be able to identify when we think we have mental health issues and what we can actually do about it. Now, I really like this slide. It's usually one of the things that I always show, especially when I make a presentation. I hope you can all see this image. Um, it's basically one that helps us to ask a fundamental question. What is it that is driving the rise in mental health issues? What causes mental health issues? Because our current model of care is really one which I like to call a disease care system rather than a healthcare system. And the reason I say this is because the reason we are seeing so much mental health issues is because none of us is trying to fundamentally address what is driving this. And this doesn't only apply to mental health issues, it applies to everything you see on the screen, whether it's cancer or depression, which is also a mental health issue, or diabetes. It's important for us to understand what is driving this. So I'm going to take a moment and just say that we need to look at the root cause of these conditions. And if you look at this graphic, I'd like us to take a moment and focus on the root causes. And I'd like us to just look at the things that are at the bottom there. And usually what we find is that the number one cause of most of our health issues is always going to be a poor diet. We also have things like stress being a driver for mental health. We have things like toxins, which usually will be alcohol, and tobacco and drugs, lack of sleep, nutrient deficiencies, lack of exercise. It's very important for us to understand that this is really what drives, chronic disease. Now, the symptoms that we experience are really not our enemy. I like to say that they are our friend. They actually show you that there is something wrong. So instead of us trying to treat every ill with a pill, try and understand what is driving our mental health and other health issues. So I want to quickly say this before I dive into what the main gist of the presentation, that knowing your genetic and family history risk is important. If there are some mental health challenges in your family, that does not mean you will get mental health issues, but it does mean that you should pay more attention to your brain and your mental health so that you actually don't get there. Now, Many people with mental health issues may not need medication. I really want to emphasize this. Before you start any medication, ask your doctor, is there a natural option? But there's something I can do. In the short term, medication may be useful, especially for the most serious psychiatric issues. And I don't want anyone to stop their medications just because you're on this presentation. But in the long term, it's optimizing your diet, your nutrient profile. That will work better. And for the mild conditions, many of us may not need actually medication at all. So I know we're going to talk about nutrition, but I wanted to talk about a functional medicine approach to mental health. And I want to tell you why I say this. Food is very important for our mental health, without any doubt. But it's important for us to understand that functional medicine is an approach which looks at your whole body and understands how every system in your body interacts to determine your health. Now, I want to just help you understand that in order for us to understand mental health, I'd like to give the analogy of a computer, okay? Our brain is the hardware, okay? That's where everything is processed. Your mind or your emotions are the program or the software, and your environment and your inputs are really, like, I would say, the inputs. Now, in order for us to understand mental health, the first thing I'd like you to remember is that your brain is a very fatty organ. The brain is composed of about 60% fat. And so fat is one of the things that we really need to think about in our discussion about mental health. So in order for us to have good mental health, we've got to have a healthy brain. And we'll talk about that. The second thing I'd like to talk about, to mention very quickly, is that what determines the way we feel are the chemicals that are produced in our brain. So let me just give you a simple example. So if I see somebody if I see something funny, my brain is going to experience an emotion by the release of chemicals that you see on your screen. We have serotonin, the feel-good chemical. We have dopamine, the pleasure chemical. We have adrenaline, the stress chemical. So it's important for us to realize that you cannot have an emotion of pleasure if your body does not produce serotonin. Now, many people who are on antidepressants, for example, they are on medications that try to break or to stop the breakdown of serotonin. They're called SSRIs, things like fluoxetine. Now, I would like us to understand that all these chemicals that you see are actually made by the ingredients from the food that we eat. So it's very important that you keep that in mind. I also want to talk about your gut and your mental health. Why? Because our gut is our emotional brain. Um, I really want to emphasize this. Your gut is your emotional brain. Why am I saying this? Because most of the people I see in my practice who actually have mental health issues also have digestive health issues. Because the bacteria in your gut play a very important role in producing those chemicals and emotions that I showed you. And 95% of serotonin, the feel-good hormone, is actually made in your gut. So whenever you have a mental health issue, always ask myself, do I also have gas and bloating and constipation and heartburn and diarrhea and abdominal discomfort? If the answer is yes, it's very important that you treat your gut, because sometimes our mental health issue is not a problem of our brain. It could be a problem of our digestive system. So please keep that in mind. The second thing to keep in mind from a functional medicine point of view is your hormones impact your mental health. Cortisol is produced by your adrenal glands. It's the stress hormone. Thyroxine is produced by your thyroid gland. People who have hypothyroidism will have mental health issues. Insulin, the blood sugar hormone, estrogen, and testosterone. So I'm going to ask you to remember this. If anyone in your family, any of your friends, and even if it's you, if you have a mental health issue, even if it's as simple as I'm always tired, I feel low in mood, it's very important that you check these hormones. And all these hormones are strongly impacted by what we eat. This word mitochondria, many of you may remember this from biology or not. These are small little organs in your cells that actually use, and they are most abundant in your brain and in your heart. And these are the ones that produce all the chemicals your brain needs. And they are very important for mood and energy. And so it's important to know what nutrients actually feed your mitochondria. So, to the gist of our presentation, food and nutrition for mental health. You know, I always like to start by saying that you are what you eat. And I think this is a very important slide because many of us do not recognize that every cell in our body comes from the food that we eat. You know, if you are not eating healthy food, you cannot expect your brain to be healthy. Our brain, like I said, is made of lots of fat cells. And so it's very important to understand, am I eating healthy fat or unhealthy fat? I also want to say if there are any ladies on this call who want to have children, it's very important to remember that the cells in the brain of your children will be determined by the food that you eat. And lots of studies are telling us today that the reason we are seeing so much autism, attention deficit disorder, and all these neurodevelopmental challenges in children is because mothers in pregnancy are not eating a healthy diet. So, as we get started, I would like to give you a very simple thing to go with. It's a quote by Michael Pollan. He says, "Don't eat anything your great grandmother would not recognize as food." So I'm going to share with you a few principles that I believe are going to be very useful for you on your journey, not just for mental health, but for your health in general. And principle number one is that 90% of your diet, everything that you eat, should be real food. Now, real food is just simply whole, natural, organic, unprocessed, and unrefined. And I really want to share with you 5 foods that are extremely harmful to your mental health, but to your health in general. And these are foods you should not be eating more than 10% of the time. So the very first of these is table sugar. Now, I know this is a very controversial thing. I mean, almost every patient I ask to stop eating sugar tells me, "Doctor, what can I have an alternative?" But I really want you to understand that sugar is the most dangerous thing known to mankind. It's actually the most inflammatory, addictive, and harmful product we know. I don't know if you know that sugar is the leading cause of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, but also is the big factor in memory loss, dementia, and low mood. Many of us take sugar every day, but it is actually something that I would strongly encourage you not to take. You know, um, when it comes to mental health, studies have shown that taking 2 teaspoons of sugar every day can increase your mental health issues by 70%. And so I really would like us to start thinking about whether we want to be taking sugar or not. And many of us are taking things like soda and not realizing that a soda has actually, 8 to 9 teaspoons of sugar. The second thing we really want to avoid are refined grains. Now, this is one of the most controversial things because when you talk about chapati, people always tend to go crazy. But I really want to help you understand that grains are actually very healthy food. But a grain, like if you see in the image here, it has a fiber, the bran. It has endosperm with energy, and it has the germ with nutrients. These are very healthy foods, whole grains like maize. But when you make posho or get refined wheat, you actually remove all the fiber. And what you're left with is actually just carbohydrate that will be converted into sugar in your blood. Now, I believe that the perfect food for mental health issues is actually refined grains. The perfect food for diabetes is actually refined grains. And actually, I don't know if you're aware of this, that now memory loss or dementia is actually being called type 3 diabetes because now we are seeing that our brain, our memory, our focus and concentration is directly related to the amount of sugar that we consume. So we must avoid the refined grains. Now, on top of the list is white bread and then followed by chapati. I know these are the foods we like to take every day, but these foods actually lead to spikes in your blood sugar, which then leads to conversion of sugar into fat, unhealthy fat around your belly, around your blood vessels and around your brain. So we must avoid white bread, chapati, samosa, mandazi, white rice, pasta, pizza, cake, and biscuits, including the cereals we eat every day. Now, I know many of us at break time, this is what we typically want to have. We have mandazi and samosas, but these foods are actually driving a chronic disease epidemic. And so I'd really like to ask that we avoid these foods. The third thing that I would like to ask people to avoid, especially if you want to improve your mental health, is processed meats, sausage, bacon, ham, salami, frankfurters, as well as processed foods like crisps, like biscuits, even things like ketchup. We must avoid these foods because they are high in nitrogenous compounds, they are high in inflammatory compounds that are actually damaging our brain. The brain is fatty and the brain needs fat. However, we must understand and differentiate good from bad fat. There are certain fats we should not eat. In fact, the worst type of fat is margarine. Margarine is a type of fat we should all eliminate from our diet. Margarine is actually made from sunflower oil most of the time, but then they hydrogenate it to make it stable at room temperature. Now, I want you to imagine hydrogen is meant to make it stable, meaning it doesn't go bad when it's on the shelf. That means it can stay in the supermarket for a long time. But hydrogen has a bad smell. And so in order for them to get that smell out, they have to deodorize this thing with petroleum products. And after that, they have to bleach it because the product is now gray. So margarine, although it's yellow, it's actually a very unhealthy food. Other fats to avoid are sunflower oil, sunseed, soybean oil, corn oil, safflower oil, and canola oil. So I really want to ask you, if you want to have great brain health, please avoid these foods. Better oils to consider are olive oil, avocado oil, almond oil, coconut oil, sesame oil, and flaxseed oil. In fact, the more you use these, the healthier your brain will be. Alcohol. Alcohol is actually a very interesting substance because many of us think that there is an amount of alcohol that is considered healthy. Actually, the literature says that the best amount of alcohol is none at all. So it's best to avoid alcohol completely. However, there is an amount that is considered safe. And this is no more than 2 drinks in a day and no more than 6 in a week, but not 6 on the weekend. So 2 drinks per day, and that's a maximum of 6 per week. Now, 1 drink is 350 mils of beer, 150 mils of wine, and 50 mils of spirits. Now, if there is a family history of alcoholism or mental health issues, alcohol can actually make it worse. So it's very important for us to rethink the amount of alcohol we consume. And especially if you're a lady, please do not drink alcohol during pregnancy because that will impact the mental health of your children. Alcohol goes hand in hand with, recreational drugs and even, tobacco. So what are the good foods for mental health? So I want to just take some time to share with you what are the things you really want to be eating for mental health. And the most important food group, in my opinion, are cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, sukuma wiki, kale. Why? Because these foods actually contain anti-inflammatory compounds and actually contain the nutrients that your brain needs to be healthy. I want to encourage each and every one of us to drink a vegetable smoothie, at least one smoothie each day that contains one or two or more of these ingredients. Research has shown that the amount of broccoli and cruciferous vegetables people take will be very, very important, not only for your mental health, but for your health in general. Now, it's very important to remember that magnesium is the second most important nutrient for your brain health. And magnesium is very important for energy production, for blood pressure control, and for managing stress. So people who are very stressed, who have stressful lifestyles, usually suddenly become low in magnesium. And the consequence is your mood will be affected, your thinking will be affected, and you could actually even get depression. But low magnesium will also cause high blood pressure. So These foods you see on the screen, an avocado is extremely important for your brain health, especially if you can eat it 2 to 3 times a week at minimum. And when you do eat it, even a whole avocado. Please remember that that fat from food will not affect your fat in your body, but it will improve your mental health. Bananas are very good for mental health, and pumpkin seeds, dark chocolate, cocoa is rich in polyphenols. And so rather than having a cup of coffee, you may want to have a cup of dark or cocoa, organic cocoa, spinach. We talked about broccoli, and then nuts like almonds and cashews and beans. So these are the foods you really want to be having if you want to improve your mental health. Omega-3 rich foods. You probably have all heard about omega-3 fatty acids. Now, I really want to say that this food group is extremely important. Chia and flax seeds, avocados again, fish, tilapia salmon, olive oil, coconut oil, soybeans, and eggs. Other very important foods for your brain: turmeric, berries, green leafy vegetables, green tea, rosemary, beetroot, and coconut oil. The things you see here, I would encourage you to have them in a smoothie every day. Now, in general, one of the problems we have with food is not that we are eating, we're not eating the right food, but also how do we structure our plate. So this, what you see right in front of you, is something that I really want to encourage each and every one of us to do. So at every meal, 50% of what we eat should come from fruits and vegetables. Now, if it's breakfast, this should be whole fruit, like an apple, a banana, a watermelon, a pawpaw, and whole grains. For example, maize or millet porridge or oats. This should be the 50%. If it's lunch and dinner, it should be vegetables. We talked about the cruciferous vegetables like cabbage, like sukuma wiki, like spinach, like beetroot. This should be half of the plate. Now, a quarter of your plate should be beans, legumes, nuts, and animal foods. These are the protein-rich foods, but they must be natural. So from Monday to Friday, I encourage people to eat legumes, beans, peas, and groundnuts, only a quarter of your plate. And then only a quarter of your plate should be carbohydrate-rich foods: your matoke, your sweet potato, your pumpkin, and your yams. So think about how we serve food at lunchtime. Typically, we will have about 7 or 8 different types of carbohydrate-rich food on our plate. But I'd like us to change that towards, eating only a quarter of our plate, or two fistfuls from carbohydrate-rich foods. When you eat is also important for your mental health. Now, many of us have heard of the concept of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting, or time-restricted eating, is basically a concept where you eat within an 8 to 12-hour window, and then you fast for a 12 to 16-hour window. So the best amount of time to fast each day would be 16 hours, and ideally that would be from 7 p.m. to 11 a.m. In that time, you're drinking only water. You can have some green tea or herbal tea, or you can even have a cup of coffee. Now, I do want to emphasize one thing. Many of us say they skip their dinner, but usually will have, some fruit or a banana or some maize or something light in the evening. Please note that when you are fasting, anything you eat that has calories, whether it's a fruit or even a glass of wine, will break your fast. So once you have your last meal in the day, please do not eat anything with calories in it. Because we are working people, sometimes your last meal of the day may be 8 p.m., but I do not recommend eating any food beyond 8 p.m. So your last meal should be 7 to 8 p.m. and then wait for at least 12 to 16 hours later. If it's 12 hours, that's 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. If it's 16 hours, that's 8 p.m. to midday. Please remember that with intermittent fasting, your body should be comfortable. If you've not been doing this, please do not struggle and feel bad and feel shaky. Please actually eat whenever you're hungry, but please try and have at least a 12-hour fast and grow it up until you have 16 hours. It's very important to have a 3-hour window between your last meal and going to bed. I really want to emphasize this point. Why? Because your brain detoxifies, removes wastes, improves the neurochemical balance at night as you sleep. But this process will only start if your stomach is empty. And once you fall asleep without an empty stomach or with food in your stomach, this process will not happen. And so many of us, our brains are not detoxifying, our brains are not healing because we are going to bed too soon from our last meal. That's why it's very important to try and have your last meal at least 3 hours before you go to bed around 7 p.m. When you fast, you don't only get, benefits for fat burning, but you also get detoxification, immune boosting, and hormone stabilization effects. So I really want to encourage us to reduce the amount of time we spend eating. It's also important to learn to eat for your own body. If many of you spend your days sitting, I would encourage you to have 2 meals a day instead of 3 meals. And that would be having your first meal around 11 a.m. and your last meal around 6 or 7 p.m. So remember this, ultimately what you eat is up to you. And I know many of you have heard this presentation before, but the next time you put food in your mouth, ask yourself, is this good for me or not? And remember, if you buy healthy food, you will eat healthy food. If you cook healthy food, you will eat healthy food. But if you buy junk, eat unhealthy food, you will actually end up eating unhealthy food. And I like to always say that many of us are Christians and we like to pray for good health. But I also like to remind many Christians about the verse in Galatians chapter 6 verse 7, which says, "Do not be deceived, God will not be mocked. A man will reap what you sow." So if you want to have good brain health, it's important to actually eat healthy food. Now, before we talk about a very important thing, do you need nutritional supplements? I just want to explain that if we eat a large amount of healthy foods for our brain, within a period of 3 to 6 weeks, we can reverse many of the chronic mental health issues that people are experiencing. So food in itself can be very powerful. Specifically for brain health and mental health, I really want to talk about nutritional supplements. Do they have a role to play? The answer is yes, and a big yes. And I'm going to explain to you why. Many years ago, the amount of time people spent using their brain was about 20% the time the modern man spends using his brain. There were no phones, there were no television, there was no social media, there were not so many opportunities to read books. There was less stress, less traffic jam. So what we are finding today is that our brains are working 5 times as hard as they did a few years ago. That means our body is using up a huge amount of nutrients. Can we get everything from our food? Yes, we can. But sometimes we need to recognize that our foods are now nutritionally devoid, especially because of the farming practices. Many of us, we keep our foods in fridges, we cook the food, we microwave it. By the time we are eating our food, we are not getting as much nutrition as we should. And so it's very important for us to try and supplement with these 5 nutrients. The first is omega-3 fatty acids. Now, because it's a general presentation, I don't want to give a prescription, but I will tell you, you need a high dose of these nutrients to see an impact. Many times, if you're just taking a normal multivitamin, you probably will not see the benefit of these nutrients on your brain because you actually need 5 times the normal dose because your body is using 5 times as much. So for omega-3 fatty acids, I would recommend everyone to take one of these as long as fatty acid supplement. The minimum dose should be 1 gram or 1,000 milligrams. But if you feel like you want to improve your mental health, taking up to 3 grams a day is actually very important. Vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. It comes from our exposure to the sun. Sadly, many people spend most of their time indoors. When I am outdoors, I'm usually covered up except when I'm running or walking. So many of us are not getting enough vitamin D. Vitamin D is very essential for the way your brain processes nutrients. It's very important for your blood pressure, for your heart health, and your bone health. I recommend that if you're a woman, you don't even need to do a vitamin D test. I would recommend you take at least 5,000 international units as a supplement for at least 3 months. But better still, go and check your vitamin D level. It must be above 50. Please remember that. When we do a vitamin D test, most of the time, the test is looking for a level below which you will get rickets, and that is 20 and below. So below 20, you're at risk for rickets and bone deformation. But between 20 and 50, although you will not get rickets, it is still not enough for optimum function. So you want to have above 50. Vitamins are the vitamins that help nerves to function and help the nerve signals to move. So many times we can check vitamin B12 and some of these tests. Some of these vitamins, you can do them in a lab test, but I would recommend anybody with mental health issues to be taking a B vitamin supplement for at least 3 months. We talked about magnesium. The dose is 200 to 400 milligrams. Please remember, when it comes to supplements, some supplements are not very effective. There are actually about 4 or 5 types of magnesium. There's magnesium oxide, there's magnesium citrate, there's magnesium picolinate. You want to get, if you can remember this, the magnesium glycinate, not magnesium oxide. Coenzyme Q10 is the mineral that feeds the mitochondria that produce energy. So I really want to encourage every one of us. I take most of these supplements, at least I take omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, magnesium, at least 3 to 4 months in a year. I occasionally take B vitamins and CoQ10 because even I struggle with mental health issues, fatigue and stress. So it's very, very important that we take these. And if anybody has a mental health issue, before you take antidepressants and antipsychotics, please take some of these. Now, there are specific chemicals and compounds that are going to enhance the way your body works. For example, people who have low mood, they are low in serotonin. Serotonin is made from 5-HTP, an amino acid. So if you take an amino acid, 5-HTP, your body will be able to generate serotonin and you will be able to feel better and to feel good. So it's sometimes important to know this. GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid. It's very important for keeping our bodies relaxed. If you fail to relax, if you can't sleep at night, your brain is on overdrive, GABA is good for you. L-theanine is very important for relaxation and brain performance. So many of us, I wanted to just put this slide here, find that in states of emotional challenges or in states of stress, we tend to stress eat. It was one of the things that came up. So it's important to understand the reason we stress eat is because our body is looking for something to help us feel good in our stressful situation. And usually it's because we are very low in serotonin, the feel-good hormone. So this product called Apicab actually provides the amino acid. It helps you crave less, especially alcohol and drugs. It helps people to eat less, so it helps them to lose weight, but it also helps them, to metabolize carbohydrates better. God has given us many herbs that will help us with our mental health. Sometimes all you need is just something herbal. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen for stress. Kava root helps with mood and anxiety. St. John's wort has actually been shown to be able to treat depression. So again, sometimes we can get these as herbs. We can put them in our tea. Sometimes they come as teas, but sometimes you can actually get a supplement and actually use that. Passion flower is very good for people who have stress and if you feel it in your muscles. So other important things very quickly about improving our mental health: exercise. The body requires 3 hours of exercise a week. Those of us who think we have no time for exercise will sooner or later have to find time for illness. Please, a week has 168 hours. We only want 3 of those to exercise. How can we get enough exercise into our diet? First, into our lifestyle. First, learn to exercise at home. Many of us, we feel like it's important to go to the gym. Not necessarily. You can learn to exercise at home. And you can actually use specialized apps which are free of charge to help you get a workout routine. But this is what I recommend. I recommend that every morning you should spend 10 minutes in strength exercises every morning as soon as you wake up. This includes squats, sit-ups, push-ups, and planks. And you do 12 of these and you repeat it 3 times. It's very important for building your muscle strength, especially if you're fasting, because when you're fasting, your body can break down muscle. In the evenings, I encourage you to take a 15 to 30-minute walk at least 3 times a week. That will be very, very important. And lastly, if you do experience any mental health issues, it's important to do high intensity interval exercises. What that basically means is, for example, if you like to walk, you occasionally sprint for 30 seconds, and then you walk, and then you sprint again. Interestingly, when you run, your body thinks that you've run away from the problem, and so it will remove adrenaline from your blood and help you feel relaxed. Exercise is extremely important for mental health, and studies have shown that the more you exercise, the healthier your brain will be and the bigger your brain will be. So I also want to encourage us to stand more and sit less. Sitting has been linked to mental health challenges, especially depression and binge eating. So I want to encourage you never to sit for more than an hour at a time, always getting up to stretch and move. And if you can't get a standing desk, it can help you. Get a smartwatch to help you track your physical activity. It's very, very important. Sleep. The body requires a minimum of 7 hours of sleep each night. And unfortunately, you can't avoid this. People who are sleeping less than 6 hours at night are those who have been shown to have the highest risk of mental health challenges. Studies have shown by simply getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, you can actually improve significantly your mental health challenges. I recommend going to bed early, preferably 9 to 10 p.m. And remember, the body heals between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. So remember, an empty stomach, go to bed by 10 p.m. You will reap the benefits. Relaxation techniques are very important. Sometimes you can't run away from stress. Sometimes your mental health is always a challenge, already a challenge. I want to ask you to try and learn deep breathing, and how to do it is written on the screen. You do deep breathing, you do 10 to 15 deep breaths in and out twice a day. So you take a deep inhalation through your nose to the count of 5, hold to the count of 2, out, deep exhalation through your mouth to the count of 5. Even one breath will relax your body, but if you do 15 twice a day, you will actually see significant benefit. This is my favorite, tip for improving mental health, although it's not about food. Saying thank you and forgiveness. When you say thank you, immediately your brain is going to produce those chemicals we talked about, serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins. It's simply amazing, like it reads there. Unfortunately, one thank you will give you a very small dose, but if you spend 3 to 5 minutes, feeling grateful, you will enhance your mental health and improve your immunity and blood pressure in ways you cannot imagine. Forgiveness is the sister of gratitude, and I always find in my practice and also in functional medicine that the person we need to forgive most is ourselves, because what is making us struggle is our own resentment, anger, and feelings of uh, disappointment with ourselves. I really want to encourage us every day to spend, to say I forgive myself, about 10 times in the morning and in the evening. But if you also need to forgive somebody else, it's very important that we do that. So I'm going to close here and say, remember, your health is an investment. It's not an expense, although it will, if you don't invest in it, it will become an expense. Um, um, I know I'm going to open up for some questions. I know there may be a couple of them on the chat, but I do want to conclude this presentation by saying that many of us do experience mental health challenges, and these can be very subtle, but I do want to emphasize again that the reason why most people have mental health challenges is because they lack the brain nutrients for their brain to work well. And by feeding your brain the right nutrients and supplementing where you need to, 80 to 90% of all mental health challenges can be reversed and you can return to normal health. We all know what we're supposed to eat. The big question is, when food is in front of you, what will I pick? I know many of us do not think of the long-term consequences of our choices, but sadly, a time will come when we have to make, to pay for those choices. Michael Pollan likes to say that there is no cheap food. Chapati may be cheap, a cake may be cheap, but you will pay with it. You will pay for it, either with diabetes or with your health. So let's actually take the opportunity to think about proactively what we eat and what we don't eat. Let's remember that our mental health most of the time is a big factor of whether we eat well, our stress levels, whether we get enough exercise, and whether we sleep well. And I do believe that many of us can improve our mental health significantly. I did recognize that many people on this call have actually said that they have struggled with mental health issues. And so I'm going to ask Minet, through your brokership or through your program, to actually find a way that we can reach out to people who actually have mental health issues and struggle silently, to have a way they can reach out for help. So thank you very much for listening. I wish you a nice afternoon. I will be able to take questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kasenene. I think that was a topic that was well sliced in simple language. Many takeaways, many things to take away. Anybody that has a brain can actually suffer from mental health. Whoa, you are what you eat. If you have never thought about what you eat, this is such a big time wake up call. Thank you so much, Doctor, for such a good presentation and for being practical about the things we'll do. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that we have stretched it a bit in terms of time, but we have some critical questions that I'll read quickly for Doctor. Doctor, we'll take 5 at a time, and then we'll see how much time will allow us to take. The first question is, what are some of the healthy snacks that we can pack for our children? Number 2, Doctor, is now that you have eliminated my entire diet, what can I eat? You have removed chapati, margarine, bread, soda, chips, everything that I eat for breakfast. So what do you have for us to eat? Number 3, Doctor, is, are you saying that alcohol is better than soda? Please clarify. Number 4, Doctor, is, where
Yes.
does lemon fall? Where does lemon fall? Then the fifth one is microwave heat safe for our food? Doctor, those are the 5 that I'd like us to take, and then we see if we can take another set when you're done. Over to you.
Thank you. What are the snacks we can pack for children? That's very interesting. So again, I will categorize them into 3 categories. The first will be whole grains. Now, whole grains can be whole maize, which of course means more preparation. It can be whole grain bread. So you go to Brood or any coffee shop and you buy the whole grain bread, not the refined white bread. And you can use peanut butter, you can put an egg in there. If it's, can have avocado, you can create any kind of healthy sandwich. But of course you want to avoid the margarine and the jams. The second thing we can pack for our children is fruit. So fruits, some of them don't even need to be prepared, like a banana or an apple. You have fancy ones like grapes. Sometimes you can just pack them and take them. Of course, sometimes you can prepare them like pineapple and watermelon. But thirdly, also nuts and seeds. So almonds and cashews and nuts and seeds. So these tend to be the gist of the healthy things you can pack for your children. Now, sometimes we do have people who are learning to prepare who are making healthier snacks like dried fruit dried bananas, dried pineapple. Sometimes these are healthier snacks. But I know sometimes people are asking, what about boarding school and things like that? So it's not always easy to get a direct alternative to the snacks for your children. But I think if we think around these healthy foods, we can actually find a solution. You can even pack, a fruit salad. A vegetable salad. You can pack a smoothie. There's so much we can pack for our children, but it all begins with awareness about the importance of these foods and also the time required to prepare. Um, Eliminated everything. So I do realize I need to talk about what people can eat, and I'll just try and do that very quickly. I know patients always ask me that, doctor, what shall I eat? So I'll tell you there are 7 food groups we can eat from. Okay. The first is vegetables. We talked about the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, sukuma wiki. In vegetables, there's also leafy ones like spinach and dodo and nakati and all our local greens. And then there's colorful ones like beetroots and carrots and cucumbers and eggplants. So that's one food group we can eat from. We can eat fruits, and there's a whole range of fruits: mangoes, bananas, pineapples, guavas, watermelon, lots of fruit. Now, we can also eat legumes. So our sauce can be legumes: beans, peas, and groundnuts should be your sauce. But you can occasionally also have chicken, preferably local chicken. You can have fish. You can have eggs. You can have bone broth or molokoni. And once in a while, you can have your red meat if it's healthy red meat. So that's where you can get your sauces. Now, what about the food? So there's 2 categories of what we call food. We have the starches. You can choose from pumpkin, sweet potatoes, matoke, yams, cassava, or you can choose from the grains, which is millet, and all the grain family. Of course, nuts and seeds are very important to add to your diet. So, like I said, breakfast should be fruit and grains. All your other meals should be half the plate vegetables, a quarter the plate healthy carbohydrates, and the quarter the plate healthy legumes. Alcohol, is it better than soda? So that's a very interesting question. So I can't say yes or no, but what I can say is that a soda typically has 9 teaspoons of sugar, and so is very bad for your health in terms of your glycemic effect, in terms of storage of belly fat, and so has many, many more calories than alcohol. Alcohol has less calories than soda, but alcohol does have, alcohol in it, which is something that is bad for your liver. And so I would say that it really comes down to how much of each of these drinks are you taking. So if somebody's having 1 soda a month, it's better than somebody who is having 10 beers, in a week. So I wouldn't say one is better than the other. I would say both of them need to be avoided or restricted. But for the soda, I would definitely say if you can totally avoid it and just throw it out. But for an alcohol, there are safe limits, especially if you're going to have red wine, which is the one I tend to recommend because it's made from grapes and has resveratrol, an antioxidant that's very good for your heart. Where does lemon fall? Lemon is a fruit, it's very good because it's high in vitamin C, it's high in polyphenols, it's high in antioxidants. It can be used to add to your water to give it the, an alkaline nature. It can be added to your salads. It can be eaten whole. But lemon can be very acidic as well before it enters your blood, and so it needs to be taken with caution, especially if people have heartburn or digestive health issues. Microwave heat is not good for your food. It actually changes and denatures most of the protein and the fat. There's a lot of debate about whether microwaves are good or bad, but I say that, if there's an alternative, just avoid the microwave. I think it's something that can be bad for your health, and studies have even shown that ladies who stand close to the microwave tend to have irritable bladders and can sometimes fail to hold their urine well. So I'm not a big fan of the microwave.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, you will allow me, we'll take one more set and then we'll close it for today. What I'll do is we'll collect all the questions, send them over to Doctor, and then we can prepare a response to your emails that you used to log into the webinar. Doctor, what do you think about muscle relaxation drugs? That's number 1. Question number 2, Doctor, what would you say about siestas? You spoke about sleep and the hours recommended. What do you think about siestas? Doctor, the other one is, do mental health issues cause gut issues, or gut issues cause mental health issues? That's question number 3, Doctor. You spoke about supplements. How long can one take supplements? Can supplements actually become addictive? That's question number 4, Doctor. And then the last one, let me just look for the last one. Okay, I think the last one will be addressed by Helen. How do you get support? Ladies and gentlemen, Helen has posted our contacts here at Minet. We have an email, hope@minet.co.ug, or you can reach us on 0783 750519, and we will support you. So you can reach us on that contact. You can check in the chat. Helen has posted our contact details. Doctor will take those.
Okay, so muscle relaxation drugs. So anytime there is a medication that you have to swallow, you need to realize that it has any benefit it gives you is because of its toxic property, because of something in it that is going to interfere with the way your body works. So I would always say that look for a natural alternative first. There are so many, things you can use. You can use essential oils like lavender. People use CBD oil. People just use magnesium to swallow. There are so many natural muscle relaxants. But the question you need to be asking is, why do I have tense muscles, or to what extent am I looking for a muscle relaxant, so that you actually address the root cause of the problem. But there are many. I would say any medication in the short term is okay if it's going to help you solve an immediate problem, but anything more than 3 days is going to probably end up being a challenge to your health. Siestas have been shown to be good for health, provided they are not too long. So anything, 30 minutes can be fine, especially if you are tired. But if you take a longer nap during the day and enter into the very deeper forms of sleep, sometimes you will disorganize your body's natural sleep rhythm, and at night you may struggle to fall asleep, but there isn't an issue with a siesta. So does mental health and gut, is it the gut that causes mental health issues, or is it the brain that causes mental health issues? So there's something called a gut-brain connection. And what we now know is that the gut, or your digestive system, is sending 4 times as many signals to the brain than your brain is sending back to the gut. So usually the problem is actually starting in the gut. Why? For 2 reasons. I talked about them earlier. The first is that most of the bacteria in your gut, they call it the microbiome, what people call probiotics, are very essential for producing signals to your brain that tell the brain how to respond. Your gut is the one that gives the brain an idea about your general state of health. But secondly, because that's where most of the serotonin is produced, the feel-good hormone, 95%. What we see in functional medicine is that it's the gut which causes brain health problems. You get gut problems, you get inflammation, you get a leaky gut, and then you start getting fatigue, headaches, poor sleep, low mood, brain fog, low sex drive, hormonal imbalances. So what we find is the gut tends to be the driver of brain health problems. And just because you have a problem in the brain or in your muscle doesn't mean that's where you should treat. In functional medicine, we don't treat where the problem is. We treat the dysfunction that is leading to where the symptom is. So yes, the brain can cause gut health issues, but most of the time, it's the gut that is causing brain health issues. It's an imbalance in your hormones that is causing brain health issues. And so you need to address your gut by changing your diet, by treating the inflammation, restoring the healthy probiotics, and then you will usually see a big improvement. So again, if anybody has any brain health issues, please check your gut health, please check your hormones, please check those mitochondria. If you check out those and fix them, usually you'll be so surprised how a problem that has been with you for years quickly disappears. And treat those mitochondria and things with the right nutrients at a high dose. That leads me to the next question: supplements, how long should you take them, and can they be addictive? Let me clarify about supplements. Most of the time, a nutritional supplement is just nutrients in a concentrated form. So it's typically food, but that has been extracted and concentrated to give you a high dose of a nutrient that you need. So they are very rarely addictive. I've never come across a supplement that is addictive. The only reason why people may feel like they're addictive is that when you're taking a supplement, because it's correcting any insufficiency, you feel so much better. And when you stop taking the supplement, you actually find that if I am not eating well, if I was only using the supplement to cover my problems, I start to feel unwell again. And so I take the supplement and I feel better. So you start to feel dependent on the supplement, not because you're addicted to it, but because it is solving the problem. So supplements are meant to bridge a gap for a short time. You take them for 2 to 3 months while you're also eating a healthy diet, exercising, getting enough sleep, so that after 3 months, you do not need a supplement. We should not be taking supplements all year round unless it is a multivitamin, which usually is a very, very low dose. But even then, if you're eating a very healthy diet, you shouldn't need to take a supplement. I do want to caution you that some supplements are not high quality. And so sometimes they may actually make you feel worse, not because the supplements are bad, but because they are using preservatives and additives that are making you actually get a poor quality supplement. Supplements are not substitutes, they are supplements. So please use them that way and use them to just bridge the gap. Yeah, so if you need more help from us, you can go to my website at drkasenene.com. You can follow us on social media. I did write a book, Eat Your Way to Wellness. Thank you for mentioning it. There's actually a revised version coming out next week or the week after. Please hang on and just look out for that. It does answer many of the questions people have around food. What should I eat? Why should I not eat that? Should I eat more animal foods or less animal foods? And just helps you to get around off this food confusion that is making so many people feel like, eating is a punishment, and yet eating should be something we all do and enjoy while nourishing our bodies. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Minet, for inviting me. Please use Minet Services, a great insurance broker, and I'm happy to be associated with them. Have a nice afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, we are not letting you go off the
I'm
hook
still here.
just like that. Yes, without our parting shots. So thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. For all your wellness needs, please contact us at hope@minet.co.ug, or you can call us on 0783 750 519. The number is in the chat as well. We will be having, like I mentioned, this is a series. This is one of a series of webinars that we have every month. We have one coming up in July, talking about workplace wellness culture for a thriving human capital. Please look out for it, join us, and you know that we always bring the best people in the market to talk to you. Back to you, Doctor. Thank you very much for that very insightful presentation. Thank you for taking the questions that you've been able to take. Doctor, could you give us your parting shots? What would be your parting shots today?
Well, thank you for having me. Because we're talking about mental health and nutrition, my parting shots would be that we are facing an epidemic of mental health challenges, and everybody is affected, from young children all the way to adults. Most of these challenges are because of our lifestyle and our brains taking a lot of hit. Too much social media, too much usage. The good news is, by nourishing your body with the right nutrients and the right foods, many of the mental health issues we experience, even simple things like feeling tired and a low mood, can be totally reversed, and you can enjoy great mental health. Food is indeed the most powerful medicine. So let food be your medicine, and let medicine be your food. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Indeed, food is your most powerful medicine. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Look out for our next webinar coming this July. Dr. Kasenene can be reached through his website, which has been posted in the chat, but we have also partnered with him as Minet. So reach out to us on our contact details. We will support you for all your wellness needs. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.